have asked me what my side was. Both of you have taken a letter that someone wrote and have taken up sides and have taken up argument, but never have you asked what the other side was. So for public record, I'll tell you. I called Ann up to talk to her. I asked her, can we meet? Would it be easier for you for me to meet you at your work or at a public place? She told me it would be easier for her to meet me at a public place. Would Panera be good? I said, that'd be fine. I wanted to talk to her because at a public meeting, as she represents us, she sat in the back and was laughing and talking so loud that Mr. Kretz had to quiet the group because he couldn't hear an applicant talking. Now, I'm very sensitive about a woman in a public office, a woman representing the trustees. Because as in Greene County, there are not very many elected women officials. We have our first woman county commissioner in very many years that was signed in this beginning of the year. And it made me proud. But we don't have many. So when I have a woman that is in charge of the board of zoning and is laughing in the back of a room loud enough to create a commotion, it upsets me. But I won't call anyone out, whether it's a man or a woman, in a public setting and embarrass them. So I asked her to meet with me privately. We met at Panera, and I told her my concerns. It embarrassed me to see you making a commotion where somebody had to ask to have the room quiet as someone was speaking at a podium in our meeting. And she represented me and our township trustees. And we talked about that. She said she was sorry. And then we talked about the board of zoning, we talked about the township, we talked about other things. I did give her that magazine. You pointed out about bullying. That was not the article that I pointed to her. If you open that magazine, there is a dog-eared page there about meetings in general and how to handle a meeting. You pointed out something about bullying. That was not ever the issue. Pull that booklet out and find the dog-eared page about holding a meeting. And I showed her the township trustee booklet because people on our zoning board or any board can have a copy of that. It's a good piece of information for anyone in the township to read about what's going on in the townships on a state level. It's a great piece of information. She was not aware of it, and I said we'd be happy to allow her to get copies of that at any time. So I was doing it as an informational type of situation. When we got done with the meeting, it was very nice. There was nothing pushback from Ann on any negativity. She's a professional. She's a teacher. If she had anything negative about anything I said, she could have said, I disagree with you. I'm not happy with this. There was no negativity at all. There was no loud speaking. We were in a public setting. There was no pushing of chairs or yelling or screaming. We had a very calm, very nice discussion. In fact, when we finished, we almost hugged, but we shook hands and parted quite nicely. 6 weeks later, she wrote the letter. When I read the letter, I thought I was talking to a totally different person. I don't know if she has any medical conditions. That's not for me to decide. But it was like talking to someone else in that writing. It was a total reversal. I was totally surprised because there was no bullying, there was no water shedding, and everything that she said, I was totally amazed at. And that's my side. So I was surprised at her response. I couldn't believe it, and that's all I have to say. That was my intent It was nothing on the negative side. I was just trying to provide education, information to make all of us better. You wanna crucify me on that? There you go.
Ms. Wallace, did you have a township trustee ask you to get her in line?
That's all I have to say.
Do you feel comfortable alleging that she has maybe a medical issue about why she did this?
So, Mr. Stafford, we had a public input session. I would ask you to respect that. Those questions could have been asked then.
Well, we didn't hear what Ms. Wallace was going to accuse her of, which I think is really out of line, especially since she's not here to defend herself.
Yeah, what I will clarify is the timing of events. So, per the email from Ann, that she received the phone call on March 18th. They met on March 22nd, and the email from Ann to the trustees came on April 2nd. It was not 6 weeks later. It was less than 2 weeks.
Would you say that again, please? The timing, you just said.
Yeah, no, according to Ms. Stalter's email, which we received on April 2nd, she received the phone call on Monday, March 18th, and then they met on Friday, March 22nd. So it was April 2nd. So, nope, just for the record, so that, because I don't want you to say something that contradicts what's in the public record.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, as far as accusations, Mr. Stafford, I stand on my previous comments. So, as far as if someone makes false accusations about Ms. Dean, do you have anything to say for that?
I think you covered, the timeline and that kind of thing, and Ms. Walls spoke for herself. I didn't know anything about, the conversation or anything about it until I read Ms. Salter's letter, and I did respond to the email as well, after Mr. Kress did, and I think that's documented in the public records request that you received. When we did, have those meetings and discuss the letter, in everything in depth, and we, left it at what Ms. Stalter, whether she wanted to file any kind of complaint or anything like that, that was her choice, considering it happened to her. Ms. Wallace is an elected official, and she can have her own opinions and say what she feels is necessary, and then that's on her to, whatever comes of that. She's not an employee of the township, I think you made some comments about it being like an HR thing. I don't think that those things apply as an elected official.
So Tom, I got a question. You just said that about slander. So are you saying that Deborah Wallace claiming that you told her to get her in line, was that slander by the trustee?
I appreciate your question, Mr. Stafford, so we're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Can we reopen the public comments since?
We've already closed that session.
Okay.
So, what I will say emphatically, and anyone is welcome to dispute my words, is that in absolutely no uncertain, no way did I or Mrs. Dean influence, direct, instruct. For those that know Mrs. Wallace, Miss Wallace, if I told Miss Wallace to do something, she would very quickly correct me. There is, in no uncertain terms, did I or Mrs. Dean or Mr. Zaharia essentially direct, instruct, request Ms. Wallace to reach out to Ms. Stalter and have that conversation. I believe that was a discussion purely between those two individuals.
And anybody that knows Mr. Kretz, I'm sure you know that he doesn't have any issue coming into a public meeting and giving his opinion or telling anybody,
Mr. Hill, you know that.
But I don't think that's the question. The question is she's alleging that you said that, which is false. She's told multiple people according to our sources.
Those are your allegations, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Can I ask one question, Mr. Kretz? I just want to understand the relationship between the zoning people and the trustees. So if you volunteer as a zoning person and you're representing the township, are you considered a representative of the township? Because according to Ms. Dean, that's why I'm asking you, so I'm a little confused.
So there's the question, and maybe there's a misunderstanding with Ms. Dean reference. And I unfortunately have the gift of an audiographic memory. I can recall conversations from years ago. It's a curse many times, but what Ms. Dean referenced was that Ms. Wallace was just, there's a question, and I referenced it earlier about elected officials that have bad behavior. Can you fire them? Are they subject to an employee handbook? What are they subject to? You vote them out. If you don't like them, you
Sure.
let someone different.
I was talking about zoning people.
And from a zoning perspective, I would defer some of that to our council to respond, but at the end of the day, they are volunteers.
Okay.
And they, whether there is a code of ethics, there are state, legislative code of ethics that we all are obligated to follow. The zoning commission, any member of that commission or the BZA can quit at any time.
Sure.
It is difficult for trustees to remove someone from the zoning commission or BZA. It's not as difficult as a fire chief, but it's difficult. So there has to be cause.
Okay.
And we've had that. There's individuals in this room that will recall that we had that with a zoning commission member, and it came very, very close to that. So.
Thank you.